the moderator back?
The moderator is here and we are recording. We are back in session.
Is Mr. Swenson there? Or Ms. Yamaguchi?
I am here, Madam Chair.
Can you make a suggestion on how we should handle number 4 and 6 on there? Should this be a discussion for later, and should we move forward? I mean, we're pretty behind in our agenda.
The concern I would have, Madam Chair, is that legal counsel is involved in this one, and if we trail the remaining part of the matter till later in the day, then it might be inconvenient for the Gurnick Academy and for counsel.
So, Mr. Swenson, would the most appropriate thing to do at this point be to open it up for discussion, or to have the NEC present further evidence? I guess I'm not really sure where to go with this.
My recommendation is to take up the addendum, because the addendum spells out what's being requested, and it can be a matter for discussion, or you can invite a motion and then discussion, either way.
Okay.
But the first few pages of that packet for the agenda item has the addendum to the report, and that would be an appropriate way to take up the matter.
I'm just looking in my own packet to see if I see it. And I see the original from Gurnick in here. And is it at the end of that? Does anybody?
I believe it's at the beginning of 5D1, ma'am.
At the beginning, because I'm in 5D1 right now.
Yes, it's dated August 21st.
I see it. Okay.
Yeah, so it says addendum. Yeah, Mr. Swenson's counsel would be probably my recommendation as well, that we just start there.
So I would like to open it up for discussion from the board members. Looking at the addendum on 5D1 in the packet that was sent to us. The addendum is dated August 21.
And ask the NEC to preface.
Yes. And Ms. Silverman, would you preface so that we have a better understanding?
Sure. Number 4, staff recommendation was to require the program to admit no additional classes.
Not yet. We have to do a roll call when everyone's back.
Okay.
And should I wait for the moderator to see if everyone's back, or should we go ahead and do a roll call? It's after 1:20.
This is the moderator. I can see all of the board members. Everybody is back as panelists.
Okay. So I will do a roll call beginning with Ms. Amazola de Herrera.
Present.
Ms. Carpenter.
Present.
Mr. Durking.
Present.
Mr. Maxey.
Present.
Ms. Norton.
Present.
Ms. Rubalcava.
Present.
And Ms. Turner.
Present.
Everyone is here and accounted for. So I would like to open up I would like to invite Ms. Silverman to give us a little bit of information for consideration before we tackle number 4 and 6 recommendations.
Thank you. Recommendation 4 was to require the program to admit no additional classes without prior board.
I'm sorry. I want to be able to stay along. I need to first find the addendum that everyone's talking about. So I'm on agenda item 5D1, and where is the addendum?
The first 3 or 4 pages.
Oh, that's the addendum that you're referring to?
I am. It's dated August 21st, 2020.
Okay, so it's just agenda item 5D1 then. Okay, thank you.
The first 3 pages or so, and then afterward was the original report, which was sent to the Education Committee.
Okay, thank you.
So recommendation number 4 was to require the program to admit no additional classes without prior board approval. And this allows the board to closely monitor a school that's on provisional approval, to monitor the pass rates and for the board to be able to ensure that there's adequate staff and clinical sites for that next class. If we admit students and we don't follow up, then we're basically saying that even though that you've had low pass rates for 9 quarters, it's okay for you just to continue to admit students. And it really isn't okay for them just to continue admitting students. They should be held accountable. They should have their faculty checked and their facilities checked, and they should be monitored for what's going on with their Nclex, because they have shown 9 quarters of low pass rates below the 10% required. So they are not in compliance. And so they should be monitored. And as far as my recommendation for number 6 is, I want to help the students that are currently enrolled in their program. I don't want their pass rate to continue to go down. My ultimate goal is to establish a relationship, to work together between Larissa and the programs and the teachers and me, so that we can help these students that are currently in the program figure out what's not working best and figure out what we could do to make it work better. And by having a lower number of students in clinical, it will allow us to be able to not only monitor what's going on, but implement whatever needs to be implemented as in live time, rather than waiting until it's 2 or 3 more quarters with low pass rates. Thank you.
Are there comments or questions or discussion from the board? Ms. Turner?
Yes, I just want to say that all of those are laudable goals, and it's part of our mission to pursue them. But the issue is whether or not we do have the legal authority to take those actions under the circumstances or not. And so we've heard arguments on both sides, and I guess we do have access to it. But our reading of it does require a legal analysis to determine whether or not we have the authority. Even though both sides have great arguments, you know, it's like you're a judge in trial and you hear arguments from both sides, counsel on both sides, and each side has a different interpretation of it. And so I know we rely on Mr. Swenson. He's given us our advice. I would say that we should try to have a thorough written legal analysis provided to us on this issue, especially since we're facing litigation. So that's just my opinion. Procedurally, I don't know how that would work in terms of seeking a delay to receive that, but I think that that's important. Thank you.
Mr. Durking?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have kind of a practical question here, and I would like to direct it to the NEC if possible, especially given counsel for the school his comments regarding consequences for action or inaction. So I would ask regarding number 4 recommendation. Require the program to admit no additional classes without prior approval by the board. My question is, what are the practical consequences to permit the program to admit additional classes without prior approval from the board? Are there any limits whatsoever?
Excuse me, their previous pattern of admission I'm pulling up as we speak, but they're approved at that school to start classes so many times a year previously. And so what happens is that when it comes up to January, they're going to just start classes. They have 2 classes in January. I'm pulling up the exact, as we're speaking now, I'm pulling up what they were previously approved for. But what will happen is during the 2-year period of them being on provisional approval, they're going to just start classes. So Gurnick, San Mateo was approved for 36 students in January for the morning and 36 students in the evening. And they were approved previously for July for the same amount. So then that means if you take 36 and multiply it times 4 is 1 year. They're gonna admit 144 students into a program which is not producing nurses who can pass Nclex. And the second year of their provisional approval, they're going to admit another 144. That's 288 students who are going to pay probably $30,000 or close to $30,000, because I don't know the exact amount of their program, but they're going to pay $30,000 roughly, and they're not going to be able to pass boards because predominant, you see by my report of how many people have not passed boards in this school. And I feel in order to ensure patient or public safety, which is our primary concern, we should be concerned with that. And we should be looking at their pass rates each quarter prior to admitting any classes. Because otherwise, I feel like there's going to be 288 students who are going to pay for this program and not be able to pass boards at the end.
I understand this, Silverman. I share your concern. For me, this is truly an issue about accountability. Thank you.
Isn't it publicized that a school is on provisional?
I believe it's on the board's website, yes.
Okay, so shouldn't that provide warning, since we voted to place them on provisional, shouldn't that provide a warning to future students about enrolling?
Theoretically, if the student looks online, yes.
Ms. Yamaguchi, you have your hand up, and it looks like we have some hands from the public who would like to make public comments.
Thank you, Madam
And we
Chair.
also recognize Paula Amazola has her hand up.
I'll defer till after the board members and the public.
Great, thank you. I want to comment to what was just mentioned by my colleague Turner, that students should know or should look and find out if a school is provisional. In the past 3.5 years that I've been on the board, we've seen a lot of students who are immigrants to our country, and I myself am migrated from Mexico, and it is very difficult to know all the different processes and educational checklists and educational certifications. We've also seen how organizations have taken advantage of students who are immigrants by submitting fraudulent transcripts to get certifications or license, I should say. I think we cannot assume that students will even know to check if a school is under provisional measures. Well, oftentimes when I tell people I am on this board, they have no idea that boards like ours exist. And I think you have to be very involved and in the process in the educational system to know where to look. So I would say we cannot place this burden on the students, that they should look and that they should know where to look and that they should know what it means to be provisional. I think that I am very concerned. I've seen during these 3 years, schools not performing and not providing equitable education by their students, not providing what the students need to pass these exams. And I am very concerned for our students. I'm also very concerned of what's happening in our public health crisis, that we don't have enough students. We need nurses to enter the workforce during this pandemic. And and these are the things that I am considering. Now, we need schools to educate and prepare qualified nurses to enter the workforce so that we can all have a future during this pandemic. And we need to ensure that the schools are preparing our students, and it is a very difficult decision that has come upon us. I don't want to put the burden on students or on the schools. We need to decide how we can ensure that the schools can do their job to educate and qualified students, and that the students have the ability to enter these schools and have a living. And at the same time, we need to protect our public because that's our mandate.
I understand what you're saying, and well, frankly, I'm just trying to understand what the process is after a school is placed on provisional, because really, I don't know what happens after that. But I agree with you that it shouldn't necessarily be a burden on students, and there are people who have difficulty accessing the internet, to check, or may have a language barrier, or just may not have the wherewithal to even look into it. So I agree with you on those points.
I see Donna Norton's hand up, and I still see Paula Amazola's hand up.
So I agree that we shouldn't place this burden on the student to figure out if their school is accredited or provisional, or that's a myriad of things to have to navigate. However, I do recall discussion in the past, not that this solves the problem at all, but I thought there was provision that if a school was on provisional, they had to state so on their website. And I'm wondering, along the same lines as Ms. Turner does, is it a requirement of the schools as they admit students to let the students know that they're admitting that they are on a provisional status, or can they present themselves as a fully accredited school? Can someone answer that question?
I know that there's a certificate that will go on the wall in the lobby, the front lobby of the school, that will tell them that they're on provisional approval. Whether the schools notify the students of that or let them know that, I don't know one way or the other.
Isn't it also on the website?
I know it's supposed to be
website.
Oh, I don't know if it's on our website, but again,
It's on our website. Yes, Donna, it is on ours.
yeah. You'd be surprised how many licensees don't look at our website. That's another issue that we need to tackle. But I do think so. There's nothing to. There's no regulation, and there's nothing about having to a school taking in new students while they're on a provisional status and informing them that they are not fully accredited, other than the certificate that may or may not be placed in their lobby. And now with people not going to the schools, they wouldn't see that. So. I guess at this point, it would be helpful to hear from board members that we haven't heard from on this issue yet. It would be helpful for me anyway.
I think we're going to hear from the public at this point, and then we'll come back. We have 3 people with their hands up that are in the public.
This is the moderator. I will unmute in the order in which they appeared. The first person is Faye Lodovico Aragon. Faye, your mic is unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I make a mistake of racing?
Okay, ma'am, I'm having a really hard time hearing you. I'm going to mute your mic. Next is Mr. Cramp. Mr. Cramp, your mic is unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to address first a couple of comments that were made by counsel prior to the break in terms of the scope and meaning of the rule at issue here. What I heard was that basically, unless the regulation says you can't do something, then the board can do what it wants, and that just can't be the case. The tradition of law in this country, in the United States, is that we are a country with a government of limited legal authority. In other words, the government doesn't have an authority unless it is given to them specifically by statute or regulation or constitutional approval. Here, we're talking about a very specific regulation that has very specific requirements that states exactly what the board is allowed to do. And limiting starts is not one of those things. In fact, it says exactly the opposite. It says that the school is allowed to have those starts. So this is just an erroneous interpretation of law. And if this is the direction of travel, then that means that really none of the regulations have any meaning, because unless they prohibit the board from doing something expressly, then the board is permitted to do it. And that just simply can't be the case. Second, I'd like to address the comments by a couple of the board members, particular the comments, I think, from Miss, and I apologize, ma'am, I am going to butcher your name, Miss Amazola, and the other gentleman. They're really, these institutions, and this is one location, and there are several in California, been in business for more than 16 years. And with the exception of this program at this campus, they have a very good track record of pass rates on the nursing exam. There's really just nothing in the record before the board that would support any of the things that were mentioned in terms of the school engaging in any kind of misconduct or any student complaints along those lines. It just isn't there. And with regard to the question about whether the school would be required to disclose this status, don't forget that this school is regulated by a number of different entities. This board is just one. The California Bureau for Private Post-Secondary Education has primary jurisdiction in California for licensing the institution and allowing it to operate. That bureau has its own set of rules, including what's called a school performance fact sheet, which is required to be given to every student prior to enrollment and discloses, among other things, their graduation, completion, and passage rates for the school. So this is not a hide the ball situation. And in fact, under federal rules, under federal law, under the Department of Education, the school is not allowed to conceal a material fact from its students. And so this is a situation where the school is going to have to disclose this status. It's just not going to happen that students won't be aware of it. They absolutely will be aware of it. And the other matters just simply aren't on the record at all. It just would be unfair to Gurnick, on the basis of things that aren't before the board at this time, to take action that isn't allowed under the law. So I would just encourage you again, if this goes in the direction that we're going to make this unlawful decision, then the issue is going to be taken out of the hands of this board, and it's going to be decided by a Superior Court judge in Sacramento, because the notion that the board can act outside of its authority is just something that can't be permitted. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Larissa. I will unmute her mic.
Thank you very much. I'm pretty much, Mr. Crump predisposed to all, statement which I wanted to say. I just wanted to tell you guys, I am with the BVNPT for 16 years, and we do have 4 campuses where we have, our vocational nursing program. And unfortunately, only this last 2 years, this has happened. Again, we discussed with Ms. Silverman why it's happened. So this is very unfortunate for situation. Rest of that, I just wanted to tell you that we do have a reputation of a very good school. Myself, Mr. Amazola, I am from immigrants and created this just like a program, and wanted to give the light to those people who need the nursing job, who is dreaming about that. And more than that, Ms. Silverman mentioned about just 2 years of possibility that we are grabbing money from the people. Just wanted to let you know, we are the school which are accredited by APHES, and we do have Title IV, and all our students, 99% of our students are getting the financial aid from the state and from the federal. It's just like we're trying everything as possible to be on a high standard on that. I just wanted to tell you, so confirm what Mr. Crump said. It's no way that we can hide the information from the student. We're absolutely required by law, specifically from BPPE, to disclose to each single student before they gonna just sign the enrollment agreement. Even more, we absolutely obligated explain what it really means. I'm so sorry.
This is the moderator, Larissa. This is your 10-second.
Okay, I got you. So I pretty much I appreciate it, and guys, I really rely on your vision and your belief into Gurnik Academy. Again, we are in a business 16 years with a
Do we have one more person who wishes to speak in the?
We do. It's S. Jordan. I am going to unmute the mic now. S. Jordan, your mic is unmuted and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you. I apologize for basically barging into this meeting. However, I just really feel that there is a need to actually hear from someone of the public who is not in either the school or on the board. And let me say, as a student, a post-student who has graduated from a nursing school, specifically a private nursing school in this region, I need people to understand that when we go and we look for these schools, we do not necessarily look at the consequences of going to a school who is going through accreditation or who is on a temporary accreditation or any of those type of things. And for that reason, I want you to understand also that, to the board's point, it is not our responsibility to necessarily check all of that while you would expect people to do that. When I wanted to become a nurse, I actually just looked for a school I could afford, that I could get through, that I could get to my licensing. If your pass rate is not where it needs to be to justify students going to your school, regardless of your reputation, something needs to change. And it doesn't make sense to subject more students to that until you have corrected the problem. So while I understand that this is your school and this is your employment as well, you have to take it seriously, because you need to put students out that are able to be a nurse in the public, to cater to your mother, to cater to your grandmother, and care for them in a hospital, a SNF, or a home environment effectively. And if they are not passing their boards, there is a reason they're not. They're not passing it because they don't understand what was taught. And if they don't understand what was taught, you need to change your style of education and the information you are providing to them. Thank you.
This is a moderator. We have one additional, Paula Richards. Paula, I will unmute your mic and you have 3 minutes.
How do I say this? Okay, the provisional process, Institute of Technology Clovis and Institute of Technology Modesto has been on the provisional process for 2 years. Prior to even being placed on provisional status, we did not like our pass rates. In fact, I can remember specifically saying they sucked, and which was not quite professional, but we did efforts. We went to work and we raised those rates. We did that with the help of our nursing education consultant. And through that process, being on provisional status was really not a hindrance, and nor do I think that it's even the real question here or the fight back from schools such as Gurnick Academy. Gurnick Academy has 4 campuses. 3 of them are doing well. 1 is struggling. The curriculum's the same on all the campuses. So, but again, back. Why these things happen, you have to look at the whole program. And the NECs and the board, I believe, have a responsibility to know what's going on. And, requesting a start is merely showing all of the paperwork that is necessary, that you have the resources, that you have the faculty, that you've made changes, you've made adjustments, and you explain all that. And that gives you an opportunity to increase your pass rates, which we had. But it's been through this process. So that's, another school's opinion of the provisional process. Thank you.
Are there additional comments from? I see hands up still.
Yes, I am going to go in the order. I believe Mr. Cramp has additional comments. Actually, they both left. They both lowered their hands. No further comments from the public.
All right. Ms. Yamaguchi, you've been waiting a long time. I do see Paula Amazola has her hand up again. Do you have a preference of order?
If you don't mind, Madam Chair, I would appreciate that. I wanted to ask one or two things, really. One, I was hoping to defer to Ms. Silverman to actually, I think, provide a very cogent and very, very succinct explanation to the board members of what provisional status actually means when a program is placed there. And secondly, Madam Chair, to the chair, the pleasure of the board at this point, we had started this item as a discussion, and it is the pleasure of the board to either continue this discussion now, continue this discussion later in another venue, or to make a motion at this point after Ms. Silverman explains, and I guess what Ms. Amazola has a comment or a question.
Do you want board member Amazola to go before I say my stuff or no?
I just have a question. This is Amazola, Paul Amazola. The question is for Ken, our attorney. Can we separate the item 4 and 6? Mainly, can we make a separate motions, or do they have to be a unique motion, like one motion include both of them? And then the second thing, I thought that the discussion now is moving specifically on 4 and 6, and that the provisional is done. Like we already voted that this school is going on provisional, and now we're discussing items 4 and 6. Just clarification, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, the vote for provisional status has already occurred, and the two matters before the board at this time are recommendations number 4 and 6. There's no motion pending, so if a board member could craft the motion however she or he wishes. So that could include both items, or the items could be severed into separate motions. Another option would be to refer the matter back to committee, or just continue it to a further board meeting to have further discussion. So those are the three basic options that the board has. Number one, a motion or motions on the recommendations. Number two, referring it back to committee. Number three, continuing it, once the discussions are ended today, continuing the matter possibly for further discussion in a later board meeting. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, Ms. Turner.
Ms. Norton, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I'm not in support of referring this back to committee because it came out of committee. So I don't know what purpose would be to refer it back to the committee. If someone would like to make a motion, someone could make a motion, but I am not in support of referring it back to committee. Thank you.
Ms. Anzola, do you have another comment?
Yeah, I would like to, before we make a motion, I would love to hear from Ms. Silverman.
What exactly would you like me to discuss? Because my understanding is we're talking about the staff recommendations 4 and 6, and the executive officer asked me to explain provisional approval, which was already voted on. I'm not quite sure what you're wanting or what information you would like from me.
So provisional, thank you. I will try my best. Provisional is a status that includes most of the time the provisions 4 and 6, or is it always include 4? I want to understand why 4 and 6 are recommended in your report, and we should consider further to vote on. So I just want to hear from you, like, yes, I understand we already voted for provisional, but we need to understand provisional means X and includes 4 and includes 6, or what are the traditional ways that provisional includes?
So provisional approval includes a higher level of monitoring from the NEC. And one of the ways that the NEC monitors is by obtaining information prior to an admission of class. It states in section 2530A that the program is to have sufficient program resources. It states in 2534 that they're supposed to have an adequacy of clinical experience. And it states in 2530I that the licensure examination pass rates are supposed to be within a certain percentage, which is 10% of the state average. In order for the NEC to monitor those three things, we need paperwork to be submitted. It has been my experience in the last 4 years since I've been at the board that every school that has gone on provisional approval has been made to come before the board for each class request, submit the documents, and then sometimes it's a yay and sometimes it's a nay, depending upon whether they're fixing their Nclex issues and they have adequate resources. Does that answer your question?
So I'm just going to paraphrase it. Provisional status, as it's been working through your 4 years here on the board, is that there will be supplemental information to confirm that progress is being made. If the rates are as we've seen that they're below the 10%, then at that point you continue to provide continuous feedback, and then the school comes for the board once those scores go up, and then they get out of provision in that way. I know that I was just brainstorming, so I apologize. So I guess my question for Ms. Silverman is a continuous feedback of information that goes on between the NEC and the school, and then once the certain level of scores reaches, then the school comes back to the board.
So, Ms. Silverman, see if this helps. Maybe it's a better explanation as I understand it. A school is placed on provisional when they have areas of inadequacy that need to be brought up to standard. So that can be a variety of different things. We've certainly seen a variety of things where they didn't have enough instructors, they didn't have enough clinical sites, but certainly it is a serious problem when enough of their, whoa, a lot of feedback. Somebody needs to mute their thing. When they don't have enough people passing boards, that is, I think, one of the key elements here for Guernsey is that they have 9 quarters of below that passing rate. And that is what has constituted the need to be on a provisional. And if we've listened to these other schools that have come up and formulated a plan, which we just heard somebody talk about that, they work very closely with the NEC to formulate a plan so that they can get those pass rates back to the standard that they need to be at, or that they can find the clinical sites they need, or that they can get enough faculty on board. But that creates someone needing to be put on a probationary status for their school because they're not able to provide for their students adequately to maintain that pass rate. Did I help you?
Absolutely. Everything you said was spot on.
Did that help you, Ms. Amazola?
Yes. So I'm ready to put a motion together if if this is appropriate time, or if we can move.
Yes, it is.
I have
Okay.
a question.
I see Ms. Turner has her hand up, though.
Thank you. When is the school's anticipated or scheduled date to start a new class? If we don't take that power away.
The next scheduled date would be 2 classes in January, 36 in the morning, 36 in the evening, and documentation would need to be to me by September 15th in order for me to review it so that I could bring it to you if need be, Education Committee and or the board, to refer it back to you if there was a problem.
Okay, so if they're not scheduled to start another class until January 2021, then why can't we take the opportunity to give time for counsel, whether it's Mr. Swenson or whether it's the Attorney General or whoever, to research the issue and give us an opinion?
I would need the paperwork by September 15th, which is on the second week of the second month prior, for me to be able to bring the school back to you at the November board meeting prior to their start in January, because the next board meeting would be in February, which would be after their start after that. So they would have to come back to you in November to request a class to start in January. And that paperwork would need to be submitted by September 15th.
This is a question for council. This is Paula Amazola. If we accept recommendation number 4 and number 6, so that the school comes before us for our November meeting, is there any problem with the current litigation?
The current litigation challenges a decision by the executive officer communicated through the NEC that was rescinded. So the petition and complaint independent litigation would not raise or does not raise this particular issue because it hadn't happened yet when the petition and complaint was filed. However, if Gurnick wished to challenge the approval of those additional recommendations, it could do so in court, either through amending the petition and complaint in the existing proceeding by filing a new proceeding. Does that answer your question?
I believe I'm ready to make a motion, and hopefully I have colleagues that support it. If not, we can then discuss the second motion.
Can we have the rest of the people that have had their hands up before you make a motion, please? I think that Ms. Turner's had her hand up for quite a while, and then I have my hand up as well.
Okay, I'm taking mine down for the moment.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Norton.
So the school is already, since we already passed the report coming out of the Education and Practice Committee, with the exception, we already passed that, and so that is, the school is already placed on provisional. There's already issued a notice of change in approval status. They already have to submit an action plan. They're already coming before us, I believe in August. Oh wait, that's where we are right now. They already have to come back before us anyway. Their next class is not going to start until January, is that correct? That's what I think I heard.
The next class would start in January.
All right, thank you.
But if you wanted to see them at the November board meeting, we would need to have paperwork to evaluate prior to that fact. And that was hence the September 15th date that was given.
So I believe that the other thing that we haven't talked about yet was your alternative recommendation. So, all right, okay, thank you.
I see that Mr. Cramp has his hand up again.
This is the moderator. I will unmute his mic.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Cramp.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
In terms of provisional, the consequence of low pass rates is to be placed on provisional. That's what the code provides. That's what the regulation says. It doesn't provide that the board can restrict the starts. If the board wants to remove approval from an institution, that's a different process altogether. It can go down that road if it chooses to, but that authority doesn't exist in the current, the authority to stop these starts doesn't exist in the current circumstance. The other thing I'll just address briefly is that I believe that counsel for the board indicated that our current litigation would not cover an action by the board today. It absolutely would, and it expressly contemplates the board taking action because the letter received from that the school received indicated that the board did take action, and we anticipated that there may be a ratification of that unlawful action by the board. And so the current litigation absolutely will cover this, and if this goes through, then this is going to get decided by a judge.
Someone ready to make a motion?
I don't know what motion needs to be made, but I'd like to suggest that I am not in support at this time of adding item 4 and 6. I'll just state that. So I'm not in favor of that due to everything that we have talked about. I would be in favor of moving on because we've already accepted the recommendations of the NEC. I would also like to have this, I would like to seek legal interpretation of the regulations. I would like to place this school for our November board meeting for reconsideration at that time to get an update about where they are and what has been happening. So that's what I would like to see. And I don't know what we need to do to move on from this topic.
Ms. Norton, can I make a recommendation that the board consider my alternative recommendation so that the school would be required to submit documentations to me in September so that I could bring it back to the November board meeting as you requested?
I am 100% in favor of that alternative recommendation.
So you could, so Ms. Norton, you could propose that we accept Ms. Silverman's alternative recommendations for numbers 4 and 6. We can have a board vote on that, and then we can move forward on this topic.
Okay, I don't know that the recommendation has anything to do with 4 and 6, though. I think the alternative recommendation is just to require them to submit documents. So.
We have 2 more speakers. Mr. Durkin?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Please.
Okay, I would move that regarding the matter of Gurnick Academy of Medical Arts, item number 5.1 5D of the agenda, that we adopt what was previously titled Staff Recommendation 4, which would require the program to admit no additional classes without prior approval by the board, and what was previously considered Staff Recommendation number 6, to require the program to provide no less than 1 instructor for every 10 students in clinical experience. That's my motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Paula. I second that.
Thank you, Paula.
Would you repeat that, Lisa?
I'm sorry, to repeat the motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, regarding the matter of Gurnick Academy of Medical Arts, which is, we're considering it item 5D of the agenda, to adopt and move what was formerly called Staff Recommendation number 4, to require the program to admit no additional classes without prior approval by the board, and also to move what was previously called Staff Recommendation number 6, to require the program to provide no less than 1 instructor for every 10 students in clinical experience.
And we had a second by Ms. Amazola. I see Ms. Turner wants to make a comment. And Ms. Amazola, you have your hand up. Mr. Durkin, your hand is still up.
Yes. I just wanted to explain that given the situation that we're in litigation, I want to move forward it's the standard of the way that provisional schools go into this state. And I think that alternative might be introducing more uncharted territory, and that's why I'm recommending that we accept 4 and 6. We hear in November, the recommendations of the NEC again, and then in the meantime, we can ask our counsel for an opinion in closed chambers.
Ms. Turner, do you have more additional comments?
No, I don't.
Oh, your hand is up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
All right. I see Mr. Cramp's hand is still up. Was that from before? Is that now?
This is the moderator. He has lowered his hand.
All right. We have a movement and a second. I'm asking for if there's any further discussion from the board or further comments from the public. Seeing no hands.
I see no further comments from the public.
Thank you. I would like to take a vote at this time. Ms. Amazola de Herrera?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Maxey?
Yes.
I am also a yes. Ms. Norton?
No.
Ms. Rubalcava?
No.
No. And Ms. Turner?
No.
All right. It still carries 5-3. All right. Mr. Swenson, are we able to move on from this topic?
Thankfully, yes.
I agree. All right. Okay. Let's move on to 5C1. It looks like number D2, which is Southeast California College Vocational Nursing Program. Ms. Silverman, the Education Committee voted on her recommendations. Would you like to do a brief review before we open for comments?
If I remember correctly, they as well removed the 10-to-1 requirement. I'm looking to see what number it was. Number 5, which is require the program to admit no additional classes without prior approval, although this class did not have ongoing or pre-existing admission patterns. And as well, I requested that there be no less than 1 instructor for every 10 students. This scenario is a little bit slightly different. They graduated their first class, and in their first class, everyone who is tested, they are now at negative 79% below. So they're very low. You know, nobody in their first class literally has passed Nclex, and they were wanting to start an additional class. The recommendation that came out of the Education Committee was no to the admission of the new class, and we're going to wait till the second class has an opportunity to test to see if what they've put into place has actually been effective at this point. There's not 10 students in the class, so it's not such an urgent with the 10-to-1 issue. But, you know, it's the same issue.
I'd like to call for comments or questions from the board at this time. I see no raised hands. I'm wondering if there's a representative from the school here that would like to speak.
This is the moderator. I do see the director, Edna Domingo. I will unmute her mic now. Edna, your mic is unmuted.
Thank you. Edna Domingo here from Southeast California College. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. As Ms. Silverman had indicated and had given us the preface of our school, I'd also like to give my comments about our school. We know, and it was a learning experience for us, but we had put quickly a plan of action that we have started implementing to the second cohort, which will be graduating October this year. So one of the 3 goals that we had placed in our plan of action is improving our Nclex pass rate, especially beginning with the class number 2 that will be testing in December. Methodologies that we have implemented, we already started them on ATI board vitals starting July 2nd. They already had 3 tests done, and we had seen a progression of their scores. With that, we also had implemented capstone. And then after finishing the program, we also will do a skills competency validation based on what had happened, that they were not able to do actual patient care. So we are going to do validations on their skills. Right after the end of term 4, they will have a live Nclex review, and then they'll do ATI exam 1, and whoever fails exit exam 1, they will be remediated and have exit exam 2. After that, they'll be testing the second week of December. That's the projection. Second goal is to also improve our VN program graduate outcomes, which will refer to our additional classes or incoming classes. Number 1, methodology under that starts with admission. We will be doing ranking of students based on their GPA and also placement exam results. We have adjusted and revised our curriculum, and we have put in a pre-VN class before term 1 that includes medical terminology and anatomy and physiology. We also have changed our textbooks. And also we are implementing from term 1 ATI complete package.
This is the moderator. This is the 10-second mark, Edna.
Yeah. Okay. Can you give me just 1 minute? Maybe 3 seconds. In relation to item number 2 for the provisional status. My stance is that I think it is premature to put us on provisional status based on the fact that we are still on the 5th quarter from the first graduates. We are moving into our 6th quarter, where our second cohort will be testing in December. And so I would appreciate if we would be given the benefit of the doubt. And I don't have any qualms or problems after that if we go in provisional status. Thank you so much.
Are there questions or comments from the board? I see Ms. Amazola De Herrera has her hand up.
Hi, yes. This is a question for Ms. Silverman. So is that correct that they are only on quarter number 6? And the last school we talked about, we went all the way to quarter number 9. Is that correct? Am I interpreting this correctly?
You are, but the fact that they were negative 79 percentage points below for the last 3 terms, and the fact that not one student has passed Nclex out of that first class prompted me to recommend them be put on provisional approval at this point rather than waiting. When the next class graduates and tests, if they do pass with all of her implementations, then I would have no problem with recommending a 3rd class. I just don't have, I can't recommend a 3rd class knowing that not one student from this program has passed yet.
Are there other questions from the board? Ms. Turner.
Thank you. Did you, Ms. Silverman, did you say earlier that that this school does not have a prior, I want to get the phraseology right, prior class approval size? Do they have?
They don't have ongoing admissions or the ability to admit students without coming to the board and asking for permission. So by removing that clause, as the education committee did, it does not affect this school, and nor does the 10-to-1, because their current class only has 7 students. So neither of those, even though they were removed by the education committee, would affect the school. So essentially the board could vote the way the education committee brought it to, is without those 2, and it would not affect this class at all, the school at all.
All right, thank you.
Are there other, I see Ms. Turner and Ms. Amazola, you still have your hands up. Okay. Are there other, Ms. Norton?
So I will apologize in advance for my own in-education about what it takes to be put on a provisional. All the time that I have been on the board, we have operated in one way, and it was never brought to our attention that perhaps we should operate differently. Ms. Silverman, can you explain to me why they do not have ongoing approvals for, this is a very new school, is it? I mean, they've only had, what do they have now, 7 students?
Correct, they have 7.
And they've had, what, 3 people test?
3 of the 5 that graduated from the first class is tested.
Okay. And when you say that they don't have an ongoing admissions, can you explain that further, please?
They have to come to the NEC, which would then go to the executive officer and or to the full board to request an additional class in their program.
And is that usual? I mean, don't all schools have to ask for approval to start new classes?
If they've been in, if the school has been around for a while, the board has given them ability to stay within a pattern of admissions. The school does not have that approval because it's a new school. So they have to come to the board, or they have to come to the NEC, which would then make a recommendation to the executive officer, irrespectively.
Okay, all right. So then there's no need to have that provision in here because they don't have it to begin with.
Yeah, the education committee removed the 2 provisions, the one about the 10-to-1 and the one about, I think it's number 5 on this one.
Yes, yes. I recall the discussion at the education committee that they only had 7
So the education,
students.
right. So they only have 7 students. So they removed number 5 and they removed number 7, and they had sent my recommendations through the education committee to the full board without those 2 recommendations. And I'm actually okay with that for this particular school.
Okay, I recall that's the same conversation we had at the education committee.
Madam Chair, this is Ken Clinton. I wanted to know, motion coming out of committee, which is reported Education and Practice Committee report at page 5, reads as follows: to accept the NEC's report with the exception of recommendation number 7, and bring the report to the full board for consideration. So the motion coming out of committee does not address recommendation number 5. It only addresses recommendation number 7, which is the one that requires the program to provide no less than 1 instructor for every 10 students in clinical experiences.
Thank you for the clarification.
I thought that we voted to eliminate 5 and 7, and I made the motion.
I think because in this particular instance, Ms. Turner, it did not matter because they already have to go before the board and or the NEC and the executive officer irrespectively. So I don't think it made a difference for number 5.
I think I actually recall the board discussion the opposite way. I think that the board discussion was we couldn't apply it unfairly of the different schools. So since we had the issue with restricting classes for the other school, that we weren't going to have number 5. And the conversation was that number 7 didn't matter because they only had 7 students anyway. So it didn't matter that we put that in there. So I think that what came out of, I'm not sure which is, let's just say I don't remember things the way that they actually got documented.
Right. So unfortunately, numbering was a little bit off during the motion, but we corrected it. So I don't know why it's not reflected. We definitely removed 5 to be consistent.
So Ms. Turner, you can make a new motion to accept the NEC's recommendations and remove 5 and 7 if that would make you feel more comfortable, since there's some confusion about what came out of committee.
Okay, so hearing no objection from the NEC and based upon the motion made by the Education Committee, I move that we accept the NEC report and adopt the recommendations with the exception of 5 and 7 for the Southeast California College Vocational Nursing Program.
A motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any comment from the public?
This is the moderator. I see the director, Edna Domingo. Her hand is raised again. I will unmute her.
Thank you so much.
You have your
Thank you.
mic is unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I still have a question in relation to the provisional status, because as it is written on the provision 2530I, it says failure to maintain the required yearly average minimum pass rate for 2 years or 8 consecutive years may be cause to place a program on provisional approval. That's still my question. Thank you.
This is the moderator. I do not see any further public comments.
Moderator, I see 2 hands up. I see Paula Richards and Edna Domingo. Are they?
This is the moderator. Edna Domingo just spoke. She hasn't lowered her.
Okay. Okay.
I will unmute Paula Richards now.
Thank you.
Paula, your mic is unmuted.
Thank you. As a school that was in Southeast position not too long ago, our first when you do your first class and you have low pass rates, that's the time to start making changes. That class has graduated and you've started another one, so they're already somewhere along the line So the changes, any changes that you make does not have the full effect on that class. So my concern here in denying them a third class is how will they prove that what they've implemented fully works? In our situation, we started with classes that we had implementing what we could immediately, but each of them was in a different place. And so as what turned out is as we went along, then all of our implementations took time, and you have a small incremental rise in that. But without a class to demonstrate that, how will the board know, or the school, that what they're doing is the correct action? Thank you.
All right. I see Miss Silverman's hand up as well. I see Miss Silverman and I see Miss Amazola. So Miss Silverman, you may want to address what she just spoke, and then we'll get to Miss Amazola.
Okay. They had a pause between the end of the first class and the beginning of the second class where they implemented some Nclex pass rate items, which should hopefully help. What I would like to do is to wait till the second class graduates and tests before we give them a third class, since all of the items were in effect for that second class.
Thank you for that explanation. Miss Amazola, Amazola de Herrera, do you have another comment?
Yes, this is a question for council. I was trying to find the provision of 8 quarters to read it. Maybe you have it more easily accessible. I just want to make sure that we apply the same standards across all schools, and that we give schools an opportunity to, make changes. And if 8 quarters is what we have written, I would like to know exactly what it is that it's written.
Paula, I don't know if Mr. Swenson is on mute or what, but it's in the regulations and it's 2530. It's on page 53. 2530 I1 says failure to maintain the required yearly average minimum pass rate for 2 years or 8 consecutive quarters may be cause to place a program on provisional approval. I think in this case, and we didn't catch it, this is a brand new school that the school's only been a school for a little over a year, I think. So I didn't catch that when we were placing them on provisional. I certainly understand, and since it says may be cause to place a program on provisional approval. And I understand Ms. Silverman's reasoning for wanting to see what happened in between class 1 and class 2, since class 2 had the benefit of the curriculum change and the Nclex preparation. So, but anyway, that's where you can find it.
I do want to say I think it's fair to have concern when not one student passed Nclex. That's significant. Even if it's only 5 students, that's still significant. Not one person passed. So I'm very thankful that this school has put all these things in place, and it sounds like a great plan. So Ms. Amazola, your hand is still raised. Ms. Silverman, your hand is raised.
So this is Ben Swenson. I may have been muted when I, but I'm sure I just answered Ms. Amazola's question. The regulations allow the board to place a school on provisional status for low pass rates for 8 consecutive quarters, but it doesn't limit it to that situation. So if there's a serious concern prior to low pass rates for 8 consecutive quarters, then a program can be placed on provisional. So it's not limited to a situation where there's 8 consecutive. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Seeing no further hands up, are there any hands up in the public sector?
This is the moderator. I do see Edna Domingo's hand up again. I will unmute her mic.
Thank you. I fully understand the concerns, but then Attorney Swenson had spoken about deviation of the regulation, but then I would like that you allow us to prove ourselves for the second class. That will be testing in December. And so just like what I had stated earlier, I don't have any qualms or questions when you put us on provisional status after that. I understand fully well the regulations. And if the regulations are written this way, I take it as written. Thank you.
All right, seeing no further hands up, we do have a motion and a second. Are we ready for a vote? Would someone like to repeat the motion? I'm not sure I can do it. Paula, did you make them? No, it was Ms. Turner. Didn't you make the motion?
I want to say it was Donna.
Okay.
I did not make the motion.
Oh, okay.
It was Cheryl that made the motion. It was Cheryl that made the motion. It was I that seconded the motion.
Okay, so I was on mute. I make a motion that we approve, accept and adopt the NEC's report with the exception of recommendations number 5 and 7.
Thank you. I'm going to call for the vote. Ms. Amazola de Herrera.
Can I get a second, please? Sorry.
Yes. Would you like me to come back?
Please.
I can come back. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Maxey?
Yes.
I am yes. Ms. Norton?
Yes.
Ms. Rubalcava?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
And Ms. Amazola de Herrera?
I'll be a yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to the next one. Let's see, hang on just a second. Okay, we will move on to agenda item number 5E1, which is Angela's Institute Vocational Nursing Program. Dr. Fairchild, would you like to give us any additional information? It looks like there was something on August 21st.
There was a student complaint, and after investigating it, they have set up their the campus is all set up for social distancing, and the Department of Health came in, and I had a chance to talk with the inspector, and she said everything looked good. They're doing a great job working on pass rates, getting students back on campus, and in the clinic setting.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there
Thank
a
you.
representative? Is there a representative from Angelus Institute?
This is the moderator. I do not see the person who is the director inside the audience.
Do we have questions or comments from the board?
This is the moderator. I do see 2 hands raised. That's Brandy Coward and Scott Coward. I will unmute Brandy and then move on to Scott. Brandy, your mic is muted. Unmuted. It appears the public member is having technical difficulties. I will try to unmute Scott Coward.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. We just want to agree with Dr. Fairchild's report and accept the recommendations from the NEC.
Thank you, Mr. Coward. Would Brandy still like to speak, or is she still having technical difficulties?
I'm not sure. If you want to try her again, you can try her one more time. She is on her cell phone, so it could be a little bit of a problem for this traveling.
Do we have a motion from the board? I see no hands raised.
This is Donna. I move that we accept the NEC recommendations.
Do we have a second?
John Deerking will second.
Thank you. I'd like to call for a roll call vote. Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Rubikova?
Yes.
Ms. Norton?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mr. Maxey?
Yes.
Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
And Ms. Amazola de Herrera? Paula?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. That is passed, and we will move on to the next one. Thank you for coming from Angelus and making your comments. We will move on to 5E2, Curran College. Ms. Gomez, I also noticed that there's something in here, August 21. Do you have additional information or something that you'd like to put forward?
Hold on a second.
Can you hear me?
My phone is acting.
Yes, we can hear you. Ms. Gomez, we can hear you.
Okay, now can you hear me? Because I was speaking.
Now we can hear you, yes.
Okay. The one thing that I would, there's 3 things I would like to say about this school. And the first one is that I would like to draw your attention to the fact that this school does have resources. They're the first school that came to me and told me that they had complete resources and that they were able to get back into the program. Back into the clinical sites. The one thing that I am concerned about is their pass rates, and they have been consistently low. 5 out of the last 8 quarters, they have been below the state. It is noted that they are compliant this quarter with a 71%, with 8 percentage points above the state. And they did submit a report to me on June 2nd, 2020. And at that time, I have been able to look at the report. It looks like all of their violations would be fixed, except I cannot verify it because of the no travel. I cannot go into the school to make a site visit.
So can you verify, have any of the recommendations changed that you put forward?
Absolutely not.
Moderator, do we have a representative from the school?
There is not. There is no representative in the room.
Thank you. Is there discussion from the board? Do you have questions for Ms. Gomez? Seeing no questions, is there someone who would like to make a motion?
John Deerking would move to receive the NEC's report regarding Curran College of Nursing and to adopt the recommendations.
Seconded, Alita Carpenter.
Thank you so much. I'd like to do a roll call vote. I see no questions. All right. Ms. Amazola de Herrera.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Okay, yes.
Ms. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Durking.
Yes.
Mr. Maxey.
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Norton.
I'm a no because of the recommendation number 2.
Okay. Ms. Rubalcava.
Yes.
And Ms. Turner.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. That's carried. We will move on to the next one. That would be agenda item 5E3, Institute of Technology. Clovis Vocational Nursing Program. Dr. Fairchild, do you have additional information for us?
The class that they're requesting will not start clinic until February. However, their current students are starting to move back into the clinical sites.
And your recommendation is still?
My recommendation is to deny the class at this time, okay, to assure and be cautious with clinical sites, and requesting that it can go back to the EO review for decision the end of September, beginning of October.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is there a representative from Institute of Technology of Clovis?
This is the moderator. I see Paula Richards' hand raised. I will unmute her mic.
Hi.
Paula, your mic is unmuted.
Thank you, board members, for listening to what we have to say. We reluctantly accept the NEC's recommendations but we would like the privilege of making some comments. With an 82% current annual pass rate, which is currently 3% ahead of the state's average pass rate of 79%, and successful clinical rotations for all of our current cohorts on campus that have been taking place for the last 5 weeks, we are disappointed to hear that our November start has been denied. We understand the NEC's reluctance regarding what COVID may hold for the future, but as I explained to the NEC, decisions need to be made on what is current, because none of us have a magic crystal ball that we can see what the future is. And we have worked diligently and very hard to get all of our cohorts back onto clinical rotations. The campuses have been set up for social distancing. We do online for theory classes only due to the large size of the class. It would there's not a space large enough to social distance 30 students. Our provisional status occurred 2 years ago. We have been working with the board for these 2 years and have successfully raised our pass rates, which was the only reason that we were put on provisional status from, like I said before, from a sucky 44% to now 82% to now to be ahead of the state's average pass rate. So while I said we reluctantly agree with the recommendations, we just don't fully understand them and feel that we should be judged on our current conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to commend you on raising your pass rates almost double. Congratulations. That's wonderful. Are there other comments from the board or response from Ms. Gomez?
Hi, this is Dr. Fairchild. I would like to comment that it was a very hard, lots of thoughts, lots of going through documents to make the recommendation. And if you look at their pass rates, yes, right now they are amazing and they have come up. 3 quarters ago, their pass rates were minus 11% of the state average. And part of keeping them recommending provisional for an extended 6 months, I have just recently received the school. This gives me time to do a deeper analysis and work with the program. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing that, Dr. Fairchild.
You're welcome.
Do I have questions from the board or a motion from the board to move forward with this school?
Number 4, Ms. Turner. So the recommendation that it is be referred to the executive officer for approval, is that, I don't recall seeing that type of language before. Is that something new that we're starting to implement, to have a specific recommendation? Let's see, who did that? Did Dr. Fairchild?
I had used it in my last report at the last board meeting. And since their class isn't starting till November, and like I said, they are not going to be starting clinical until February, I felt that it was prudent to make the recommendation to allow the EO to make the final decision in October instead of completely denying their request and then going to the November board meeting.
I want to make the comment that in light of what's happening with COVID and clinical sites, where one day you're told you've got a clinical site and a day later you're told you don't have it, or vice versa, I think it is prudent to allow for some flexibility, because it sounds like they have everything in line, but because of COVID, we just can't know that. So thank you for that, Dr. Fairchild.
You're welcome.
Ms. Turner, I see you have your hand raised.
Oh, okay. So the EO normally approves, does this approve, and has the authority to do the approval. Is that right? Are you asking for an exception?
I am requesting that yes, the EO does have the right, when it is a non-complicated, we present our recommendations to her. This is an extenuating circumstance. Instead of making the decision at this moment, I am requesting that she be allowed to make the decision so it does not go back to the November board meeting.
Okay, so I think, was someone about to say something?
You're the only person with your hand up. I see Ms. Yamaguchi has her hand up.
Okay.
And Ms. Norton.
Okay, if Ms. Yamaguchi can address my question, that's great.
Thank you. I'd be happy to. No, Dr. Fairchild is correct that usually in the event of a decision that is absolutely a review of existing circumstances, that all the cards are in order, et cetera, et cetera. This is something that the EO has managed to decide, but in this particular case, because this is a board directive, this underscores that. So essentially, Dr. Fairchild's recommendation, and I think the chair was making this point as well, that since anything could possibly change in the next month or so, and any decision would be needed before the board and the committee could meet again. Based on all the facts that we have now, this would be like a last check in order to just absolutely make sure that none of the wheels have come undone on the wagon, and we would be able to help them move forward.
Ms. Norton?
It's been a really long day and we've had so much discussion over these types of things. Dr. Fairchild, for a school that has good pass rates for the last 3 quarters, help me understand again, why are we denying them a class?
The recommendation is to deny the class and then take it back to executive officer for approval to make sure that they still have their resources.
Well, wouldn't that apply to every single school that we have? Because every school that we have could lose their resources. So I don't run a school, but it would seem to me that in order to have a class that's going to start in November, you would have to be able to try and plan for it now. And if we're telling them that they can't plan for a class, but then we're telling them now that they can't have a class in November, but we're also telling them that, well, maybe we'll give you the approval in October. Isn't there some sort of planning that they have to do to get ready to have a class to come in November?
Ms. Norton, I would like to address that because I'm living this reality right now. So every class that you plan for, we have had a plan for our incoming VN class and our progressing VN class since May when we left school the last time, and the plan was in place. And 4 days ago, the plan changed. So plans right now are very fluid. I myself am in touch with my NEC, with my class for my VN class all the time. And I rely on her heavily, and I try to let her know what's going on. And as things change, I try to keep her informed, because we are in very unusual circumstances. And so I think what Dr. Fairchild is trying to do is protect the school more than anything else. That's the sense I get. And it's the sense I've gotten from my own NEC as we're trying to navigate these COVID waters that we are not used to. Does that help?
Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
So, but have you been denied a right to start a class? Because
No, but my pass rates are very high and have been consistently high. And I just passed my self-study, and I have all my clinical. Not only did I have my clinical in place, I had a backup plan should my clinical fall out, and I'm having to use my backup plan. It's pretty complicated right now, much more so than before COVID. Ms. Norton, your hand is still up. Do you still have questions? I see many more questions again here. And Ms. Yamaguchi, would you like to address some of this? Maybe you can help.
I'm actually, I've heard all the questions and answers. Essentially, I'll just reiterate that this plan that Dr. Fairchild has worked out with the program director is essentially to ensure that the school is ready to go, and but also to be able to act as soon as we possibly can, given the ability to provide updated information and for the NEC to analyze that information and then make that last final call of yay or nay. Again, if we were to defer the decision to the next education committee and or board, it would be past their planned date. So to the chair's point, that schools generally have their program planning done quite a bit in advance. This is basically a belt and suspenders kind of thing to make sure that we don't disrupt them unduly, but to make sure that all things can proceed upon this final yay. Madam Chair.
May I speak? I've
Sorry,
had my
I'm
hand.
muted.
Okay.
Go ahead, Paula, and then we'll have the Ms. Richards from the audience.
Okay, thank you. I am reading this report, this recommendation, and like number 1 says extend the program's provisional approval for 6 months. I understand we're in a pandemic and that these are very uncertain times. I work at USC and I am haphazardly preparing events for the fall and for the spring. I get it. There are very uncertain times. However, I feel like there is no clear indication why we should extend the provisional for 6 more months if the school is doing good right now. And I understand that things might change, but they might change for every single school, or it might change for the schools in LA County. But I don't feel comfortable saying at this point, when the board is making a decision, we're going to defer this decision to the EO. It's our responsibility to make the assessment as a board, and together through the assessment of our diverse thought and diverse background, make a vote on what we have today. And I don't want to defer to a single person to make this decision, in October. If the school is standing and it's in good standing, the board should take the vote either way. And as we have, this is why we have a board, to have diversity of thought, to have a discussion, and to make these decisions. I don't want to defer this decision to October if we have what we have right now. It just doesn't make sense. And I am ready to put a motion together, and it's going to deny, not to accept these recommendations. I think the school has made their case that they reluctantly accept this, and we should be strengthening the healthcare workforce, and unless there's other things that I am missing, please help me, because I don't see why we should defer our vote to October for a single person to make this decision.
Are you making a motion?
My question is to Dr. Fairchild: is there anything that I'm missing on why we cannot make the decision? I mean, I heard two things, and that was that the placements, the clinical placements may change. Yes, that's one case. Is there anything else?
Okay, when you are looking at the extension for provisional, in May, they were to submit a comprehensive analysis for a review of the program that is not due until November. As the new NEC, I have not been able to see all of I have not been able to analyze their comprehensive analysis. The second is when you look at their pass rates, this quarter, the second quarter, they are up 3% above the state pass rate. The quarter before that, the first quarter, they were within the 10% at minus 2%. The last quarter of 2019, they were minus 11%. So yes, their pass rates are coming up. They are not consistent. So the recommendation for it to go back to EO was not based on for the provisional extension. It was to start the class in November.
All right, does that help clear things up for you?
Yes, I
see Mr. Durking's hand is up as well. Mr. Durking, would you like to make a comment?
This is the moderator. It looks like Mr. Durking had to rejoin. I am going to promote him to a panelist. I can unmute Paula Richards. Mr. Durking is now a panelist, and he's able to mute and unmute his mic. Paula, your mic is unmuted.
All right, thank you very much. The quarter that Ms. Fairchild referred to, there were actually 2 students that tested. One passed, one failed, 2. So I really think we need to look at our annual, which is a rolling pass rate, which is definitely within standards. Quarter 4 was actually 72%, 87% in quarter 1 of this year, and 100% in quarter 2, with many more students participating and taking the test than the 2 from the 1 quarter. And, as a school, I just don't understand how the board could have approved any of the classes because COVID is a big if. So we had 40 of 49 passed so far in the count. And, you know, that's a marked improvement.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments, or would someone like to make a motion?
Dr. Mountain, can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
When you look on page 6 at the pass rates, the October to December 2019 quarter, 25 candidates tested, 18 candidates passed. That gave them a 72% for the quarter. That gave them a 68% for the annual, which is what we monitor. The state average for that quarter was 79%, which is what gave them the 11% below. It was April through June of 2019 where they had the 2 students test and 1 student pass, which gave them a minus 5% within the average. Their state average at that time was 76, where their annual average was 76, where the state average was 81%. Thank you.
All right. I see no further comments. Would someone like to make a motion?
This is Alita Carpenter. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the NEC's report and recommendations.
Is there a second on that? I'll second it. Okay, can we please call for a roll call vote? I see no other hands raised. It's been recommended that we accept the NEC's recommendations. Ms. Turner?
No.
Ms. Rubalcava?
No.
Ms. Norton?
No.
Okay, well, I'm going to say yes. Mr. Maxey?
No.
Mr. Durking? Mr. Durking? Can I come back? Can I come back to Mr. Durking? I'm not hearing him. Moderator, is he still on?
He is still on. I'm attempting to fix his situation right now.
We'll come back to him. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
And Ms. Amazola de Herrera?
No.
Okay. Mr. Swenson, what do we do in a situation where it doesn't pass like this?
The board can make an alternative motion, have discussion, invite public comment, and then vote on the alternative motion.
Would someone like to make an alternative motion?
This is Donna. I would move that we accept the NEC's recommendations with the exception of 3 and 4.
Okay.
Wait, scroll.
Second that.
Yes, with the exception of 3 and 4.
And we have a second on that?
Yes, Paula.
Okay, is there further discussion among the board?
This is the moderator. Mr. Deerking has logged out and he is going to rejoin the meeting.
Nice, thank you.
One moment.
In the meantime, may I raise a question concerning the pending motion?
Yes, please.
Is it the intention of the moving parties that in lieu of accepting recommendations 3 and 4, that class be approved?
This is Paula Amazola. I think that the school is doing well. They've been on provisional for 2 years, and I think that there's no reason why they should not get, why the board shouldn't vote on a class for this school.
And this is Donna. It was my motion, and it was my intent to allow them to have a class. So I guess the motion should actually be then that to approve the NEC recommendations for 1, 2, change 3 to approve the program's request, and then strike 4. That would be the appropriate motion. Thank you for catching that.
Does the seconding member concur with the amendment?
I believe that was Miss Norton.
No, it was my motion. It was Paula that seconded. So it would be Paula that would agree to my amendment, which would be to accept 1, accept 2, change 3 to approve the program, and strike 4.
Do you agree with that, Ms. Amazola?
This is Paula Amazola, and yes.
Okay. I'm looking for further comments regarding this proposal. I see no hands raised. I would like to take a vote on this. I see no hands raised in the public. Are there public comments?
This is the moderator. I do not see any public comments at this time.
I would like to take a vote. I lost my list. Ms. Amazola de Herrera? Yes? For the new proposal?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durking?
Yep.
This is the moderator. I just received a message from Mr. Deerking, and he is still having technical difficulties. We're going to try to have him come in from a different way, so give us a minute.
Okay, I'll come back to him.
Thank you.
Mr. Maxey?
Yes.
I will be a yes.
You hear me?
Yes, we can. Is that Mr. Durking?
Yes. Yeah, I vote
Yes. You vote no. Thank you. Ms. Norton?
Yes.
Ms. Rubikova?
Yes.
And Ms. Turner?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Let's move to the next Institute of Technology, which is, Modesto. That would be item 5E4, Institute of Technology Modesto, and that would be Dr. Fairchild.
Okay. The program's doing great on their pass rates. Their current students are actually attending class for theory in a very unique, cool setting. They've split the class into two to maintain social distancing. One half is Zooming in the morning, and then the teacher flips where the other half of the class, she's in with their class. They currently do have clinic sets, but again, being conservative, I recommended to deny the class and request it to go back to EO for review and final decision in October, because they will not be in clinical sites until February.
Is there thank you. Is there discussion from the board? Sounds like a very similar situation as to what we were just talking about. Is there a representative from the school here?
This is the moderator. I do see a hand up. Name is Kathy Calvin. I will unmute her mic. Kathy, your mic is unmuted.
Just as Paula said from Clovis, we have everything in place. Our students have been going to clinicals for the past 6 weeks, and we're actually getting new sites as we speak. We just had 21 students test and 21 students pass. The Nclex, we only have 3 left. We're doing really well. I had the same concerns having to wait till October, and trying to get the students in would be really challenging and difficult for the students also, along with, all the testing and stuff we have to do to bring a class in. So I wasn't sure if, what the reason was why we would have to wait so long to get approved for this class. And I also had a concern about being on the provisional, according to this, till May of 2022, when we're doing so well and moving forward in the program. So I wasn't sure why we're, being held for that much longer.
Dr. Fairchild, would you like to address that?
I would like to address that. Provisional was extended in May before I took over being the NEC. And to be honest, I've been thinking the same thing myself. And I've actually talked to Kathy with, let's see how things go for the next couple of quarters, and recommending taking them off provisional early.
Are there other questions from the board? I see Donna Norton and Ms. Yamaguchi both have their hands up. Ms. Norton?
I will allow Ms. Yamaguchi to go first, please.
Ms. Norton, and thank you, Madam Chair. In light of the really excellent conversation before and the program representative, I was going to suggest the board entertain taking the motion from the last school and patterning it and moving forward. But also with a proviso that I think Dr. Fairchild's recommendation of possibly bringing the school forward in a few quarters, like for example for the May meeting, to review a termination of the provisional status.
Ms. Norton?
Yes, so I move that we accept so we're not going to accept any of them. I move that we this is so hard. I move that we approve the program's request to admit a full-time class of 30 students. I move that we strike number 2. I move that we change number 3 to say place the program on the board's May 2021 agenda. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
This is Paula. I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion from the board members? I do see a hand up in the, sorry. I do see a hand up in the audience. Moderator, Ms. Calvin want to speak?
This is the moderator. This is Kathy Calvin. I will unmute her mic again.
I didn't have my hand up.
Hi, Kathy. Your mic is unmuted and your hand is raised.
It was a mistake. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
No worries. I see no other hands up and no comments. I'd like to take a roll call vote. Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rubalcava?
Yes.
Ms. Norton? Ms. Norton?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mr. Maxey? Mr. Maxey? Uh-oh. Mr. Maxey, are you there? Okay, we'll move forward. Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
And Ms. Amazola de Herrera?
Yes.
And I want to try, Mr. Maxey, are you having technical difficulties?
I'm a yes.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. Let's move to the next item of business. That would be Premier Career College. Just a second. And once again, the recommendation from Dr. Fairchild. Do you have additional information for the board?
I don't have additional information, but I do need to make a comment on a typo. If you look under the recommendations, it says deny the Premier Career College nursing program's request to admit a full-time class of 30 students commencing on June 1st. That should actually read commencing October 26th, 2020, graduating December 12th, 2021 to replace the February 7th, 2020 graduating class. And no, I do not have any additional information or change in my recommendations.
Thank you. Is there someone here from the school who would like to speak?
This is the moderator. I do see Ophelia online, and I will unmute her mic now. Ophelia, your mic is unmuted. You may speak.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak to the board. There's just a few things that I would like to clarify about the denial for the admission of the class. I know that we were put on a provisional early this year, and that was because of some violations which we have corrected most of them already. There's just one more violation that we need to correct, and that is the screening and selection criteria. And the interview documentation that has been created, we could not utilize it unless we have a class to start. And aside from that, also the other thing that we were decided on was our pass rate. In the beginning of the year, the first quarter, our pass rate was 100%. And then in the second quarter, we had 3 students who took the board exams, and 2 of those students are outliers. They graduated a while back. The one that graduated recently was the one that passed. Recently there's 2 more that passed. So, we have established a few new processes in support of managing our students, and also the ones that will be testing soon in the next quarter. And we are expecting we're positive that we will see a different outcome in our pass rates. So, we are, looking for an opportunity to show the effect of the improvements that we instituted if we are allowed to have another class, which is the one that we're requesting for October.
Thank you. Are there other comments by the board?
Just one here, John Deerking, if I may.
Yes, please.
I note that on the chart that's on the page 5, licensing examination statistics, it looks like there's a corresponding number of candidates who passed versus candidates for the exam. So I'm guessing that's correct, based on the percentage that's passed.
Dr. Fairchild?
You have the number of candidates who tested, the number that passed, then you have the percentages passed, that's for the quarter. And then when you look, you've got what the state average is, the program average for their annual, which is what we look at for being within the 10% of the annual pass rate, and then the state annual pass rate.
Right, and program director drew our attention to the January to March quarter. 7 of 7 passed, correct?
That was correct. For that first quarter, they did have 100% that left them at 10% below, exactly at 10% below the passing standard.
Well, my question really relates to the prior quarters. For example, October through December of 2019, it looks, based on this chart, that 13 of 13 passed.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I do not have an answer as to how they got switched around.
Okay. The numbers got switched around?
The number that passed is they're missing. Hold on, let me see if I can find another copy.
No, I see what you're saying. I was just checking my own understanding of interpretation here on the pass rate.
This is Donna Norton. That was my question as well. I don't understand this chart. If 20 people test, 20 candidates, 20 people pass, that would be 100%. And it looks like it's completely 20 out of 20, 14, 14, 13, 13, 7, 7. And then in April to June, only 3 candidates tested and 1 passed. So that one looks correct, but I don't understand what happened in the middle. That was my question as well.
So okay, I don't understand what happened either. That's not what I thought had been submitted. Hold on, and I can let you know. So the January through March, the first quarter was 7 out of 7, so 100%. The next quarter is 13 tested, 8 passed. The next quarter is 14 tested, 7 passed. The next quarter back, which is April through June of last year, 20 tested, 15 passed. Then the quarter before that, 21 tested and 12 passed. The quarter before that is 7 tested, 5 passed, and then July through September 2018, 9 tested and 6 passed. So their first quarter of being below the passing standard was January, the first quarter of 2019.
Okay, are there other, I see that there's a person in the audience who would like to make a comment.
Yes.
And then I see Paula, you would like to make a comment as well.
Public person is Kobe Piazzi. I will unmute his mic. Kobe, your mic is unmuted.
Good afternoon, board. I appreciate your time and letting me speak on this issue. My name is Kobe Piazzotti. I'm with the California Association of Psychiatric Technicians, and I just wanted to make a statement not based on the recommendations of this program, but I wanted to make more of a general statement on all of the man hours and all of the hard work that has gone and been put into making these recommendations and to analyzing these programs that you've been voting on. All of that is paid for by your licensees' fees. And I just wanted to say that we are subsidizing all of these schools getting their accreditation and being regulated. So I'm saying this because there is another item that I will talk on later on, but I wanted to plant that seed and let you guys, ruminate on it for a few minutes, because this is something that is very important, as you will have a deeper discussion later. Thank you.
Ms. Angela Herrera, I believe you had a comment? No? Yes.
Yes. And this is for Dr. Fairchild. Is it possible for you to confirm the program's average annual pass rate? Is this something that you feel confident that this number is correct? I want to make sure that whatever decision we make, it's a decision that has the appropriate percent rate, passing rate, because I think it's something that weighs heavily on me when I'm making a decision. I want to make sure that the schools are educating our students and that our students have a fair chance to learn. And I want to make sure that these numbers, you feel, do you need to, can you recalculate it, or are you confident? Just like to learn more.
Yes, I am confident in what my variances are for the annual pass rate. The only error on the chart is the number of students passed. As you notice, we did a lot of changing around of things, and as things got moved, the chart got messed up, and I did not catch that earlier, and I want to apologize. But everything else is correct.
I see no other hands raised. I'm wondering if we are ready to make a motion.
John Deerking is prepared to make a motion.
Okay, I now I'm seeing 2 hands raised out in the audience.
This is the moderator. I will unmute Ophelia. Ophelia, your mic is unmuted.
Yeah, I would just like to again ask for the board's consideration, because of all of the efforts that we've been doing to improve the program for our students. and also our efforts to get them back to clinicals, which I have submitted to Dr. Fairchild, communication with the different sites that we go to, you know, and we are doing our due diligence to, you know, make our students succeed. And that's all that I would like to say for now.
Right. Is anyone on the board prepared to make a recommendation or a motion?
John Deerking, I can make a motion.
Thank you.
I would move to receive the NEC's report regarding Premier Career College VN program and adopt the recommendations.
Do I have a second?
Alita Carpenter, second.
Thank you. I see some hands raised, but I think these are in the community. I think these are from before and they didn't put their hands down. The hands never went down.
This is the moderator. That is correct. I've sent them to please lower, and they're unable to.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I see no hands up in the rest of the board. I'd like to call for a vote. Ms. Amazola de Herrera. Paula?
My vote to yes.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Durking?
Yes.
Mr. Maxey?
Yes.
My vote is a yes. Ms. Norton? Donna?
Oh, so sorry. My vote no, and again, for consistency, it's because of number one. Although I do recognize that this school has does not have adequate pass rates, but I still have to vote no because of number one.
Ms. Rubalcaba?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. And Ms. Turner?
Yes.
All right. That's the end of our school cases. I'm going to suggest that the board take a 15-minute break and reconvene at 5 minutes after 4. Is that acceptable? Any objections? Okay, we'll reconvene at 5 minutes after 4.